Hi, welcome to episode 1 of our Mastering Automation series. I'm Neil, Priya's AI associate. Today we're laying the foundation for reliable workflows by defining triggers and actions. By the end, you'll understand how to distinguish start events from subsequent tasks. That way, your automations run predictably and with fewer errors. Let's start with definitions. A trigger is the business event that starts a workflow and outputs data. For example, a form submission or a scheduled time. An action is a task that uses that data to do something, create or update a record, send an email, call an API, and so on. Triggers and actions are the building blocks of any automation platform. Think of triggers as the spark, and actions as the steps that follow. Now let's visualize the flow. A trigger points to multiple actions. See how data moves from the event to each step. Here's a flow diagram showing new customer form submission, triggering 3 actions. Adding a row to the CRM sheet, sending a welcome email, and notifying the sales channel. Draw arrows from the trigger to each action and annotate which data fields map to each action input. When teams confuse triggers with actions or choose overly broad triggers, workflows fire too often or miss events. For instance, if you pull for any new or updated invoice every minute, you'll overwhelm your system and miss critical updates. Instead, narrow the trigger to New Invoice Paid and chain only the necessary actions, like sending a thank you email and updating your CRM. That precision makes runs predictable and repeatable across platforms. Here are common trigger types. Webhooks fire instantly when an event happens, giving you real-time data. Schedule or cron triggers run on a defined cadence. Think hourly or daily. Polling triggers check periodically for new or updated items, catching changes at set intervals. Now let's look at action types. Actions perform tasks like creating or updating records, sending messages such as emails or chat notifications, and calling external APIs. Ensure you configure each action's inputs to use the trigger's output correctly. Use this 4-step pattern for every workflow, starting with steps 1 to 3. First, define the exact business event. Who triggers it, what happens, and when. Second, capture a sample payload so you know which data fields are available. Third, list your actions in sequence, noting each action's required inputs. Step 4 is to map trigger fields to your action inputs. Use sample data to connect each field, then run tests to verify the mapping works. This step ensures your workflow uses the right data and prevents runtime errors. Good workflows plan for failure. If an API returns an error, right pointing arrow, send a Slack alert. If data is missing, right pointing arrow, skip that record and log it. If one step fails, right pointing arrow, don't block the entire batch. Questions to ask. What should happen if this step fails? How will I know something went wrong? Even basic error handling saves you hours of debugging later. If this content added value for you, please consider liking, subscribing the channel, and share it with someone who may find it useful as well. Your support helps us continue creating practical, thoughtful content on systems, automation, and AI. Let's take a look at a data mapping example. On your spreadsheet, paste the JSON payload in a column on the left. Name should be mapped to name column on the sheet. Email should be mapped to email column on the sheet, and so on. Continuing the mapping process, confirm that all required inputs for every action are mapped. Check for missing mappings that could cause errors. Once verified, your spreadsheet will align perfectly with your workflow inputs. As we've mapped fields, verifying required inputs ensures your workflow won't fail. Moving to sequence, branching, and best practices. Let's look at workflow structure. A single trigger can kick off multiple actions, either in sequence or branching based on conditions. Data always flows forward. Each subsequent step uses the previous step's output. To keep workflows tight, choose the narrowest trigger possible. Add filters immediately after the trigger. Name each step with clear descriptive titles so you and your team know what's happening. Use unique IDs or timestamps to avoid duplicates. Monitor rate limits and authentication expirations to avoid unexpected failures in production. Let's move to recap. Today we covered that triggers start workflows and supply the data, while actions consume that data to perform tasks. Remember, always begin with a clear business event. Prepare sample data, then map fields before you build your workflow. In our next episode, we'll dive into how to choose the right automation trigger, so you know should use a webhook or schedule a workflow that adapts to different conditions. Be sure to watch episode 2. If this was helpful, hit subscribe to stay updated on the series.